What's going on, folks? This is Coach Marcus, Pro Fan Talk. We are going live after this Dallas-Buffalo game. I need some therapy, man. I need some therapy after watching that game. Buffalo just completely dismantled the Cowboys. Dismantled them. Now, this is not so much for, if you saw the game, it was what it was. Buffalo just ran right over them. And here's the one thing that I pulled from this, right? And this is what angers me. Give me 1 second. Let me turn on a little bit more light. Hold tight. There we go. Yeah. So this is the one thing that angers me a little bit about this game, right? We can all admit that Josh Allen can be considered, some would argue, but can be considered one of the elite, quote unquote, elite quarterbacks in the NFL. We can all agree on that. He's had his ups and downs, but basically for his overall talent outlook, he's considered one of the upper echelon quarterbacks in the NFL today, right now. Right? We can all agree on that. Having that guy on your team and Buffalo making the decision to run the ball because it's working. Me as an Eagles fan, as a former Eagle, and as a running back, that is what frustrates me the most watching that game. Because you could have what a lot of people consider one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and your offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, he can figure out that the best way to beat the Dallas Cowboys is to run the ball. Not complicated. Didn't overthink it. Josh Allen, I got the stats up right here. You see him in the background. Passing. Josh Allen was 7 for 15 and 94 yards. One touchdown. His longest pass was 24 yards. Quarterback rating 89.3. 7 for 15. So just so we're clear and just so we understand this, Josh Allen, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, played the Dallas Cowboys with one of the best defense in the league, and they figured out that the best way to beat Dallas is to run on them. Who wrote that blueprint? We did. When we beat Dallas last year, the blueprint was more focused, was run at Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons was balling last year. He was having a great year. And the best way to nullify Micah Parsons was to run at him. And that's what we did. And we put the blueprint out. What's up, Cody K? We put the blueprint out on how to kind of nullify the Cowboys. And it hasn't changed. But the bad part about it is, we're the only ones not following our own blueprint. That's the frustrating part for me as an Eagles fan. And this is where the criticism of Brian Johnson is valid. This is where it's valid. You walk a slippery slope because you're complaining about somebody that got you to a 10-3 record, right? You can't get to 10-3 unless you're putting points on the board. That's fair. You can complain about you don't like what he's calling. He don't call enough run plays. You don't like what run plays he's calling. Those are my criticisms. And to me, those are valid criticisms. However, criticisms and nitpicks are very, very close together. They cousins. And it becomes a nitpick when your team has a winning record. When you are 10-3 and you still got a good shot to go to the playoffs or get a number 2 seed. All of that kind of stuff. So you got to take the good with the bad. However, when I see somebody else, when I see other teams do the stuff that we are supposed to be doing, it is infuriating. Because it is not complicated. I hate always using the 49ers as an example, but the 49ers are the best example. 49ers have been doing the same thing all year, and they're daring anybody to stop it. You know CMC is going to get that skinny pitch, that outside pitch, and you know he's going to go on a pass pattern, and nobody can stop it. They are not doing anything different. All you got to do is watch the tape. They run the same fronts out of the same sets with the same motion, but they take them 20 plays that they have, add 3 variations to each play, and now they got 60 of them. And the way they do their motion, you can't figure out what they're running. That's how you run smart football. I don't think Brock Purdy is the MVP. I think CMC is the MVP. He's the one that's got whatever that streak is for touchdowns in the game. I think he's like at 22 games or whatever it is. He's the MVP, but that's not a slight to Brock Purdy. The only thing Brock Purdy's got to do is get the ball to his playmakers, and that's exactly what he's doing. So if Cam Newton wants to call him a game manager, a systems QB, if you want to use all them stupid adjectives they go on the media and they say, trying to give a backhand compliment, you go ahead and use those things. All I know is the kid is winning. All I know is every time Brock Purdy steps on the field, they come out with more points than their opponent. That's the only thing that matters. The only adjectives that matter in the NFL is, are you a winner or are you a loser? So all this other nonsense is irrelevant. That stuff, system quarterbacks and game managers, that's crap the media made up. Players don't talk like that. At least they didn't talk like that in my day. Those are concepts the media made up. Can you win a game or can you lose a game? Period. That's all that matters. Was Dak Prescott a game manager today? Was Josh Allen a game manager today? All he did was hand the ball off. I mean, Philly, that could be. I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll get more into that later. Is that what Nick says, or is that Nick protecting his coach? I don't know yet. The problem is we might not find out until Brian Johnson leaves. Then when the next man comes in, or if Nick says, I'll bring somebody in, but I'm going to do it, however that manifests itself, we'll never know until it happens. So we won't get the answers to that question until it happens. Because let's say we go into Seattle tomorrow night and we have a good balanced game plan. We run the ball enough. We get the victory. What is Sirianni going to say? He's going to tell you how good of a job Brian Johnson did. Right? So that's not really going to tell us nothing. We already know what the situation is with Desai. And remember, the situation was flipped in the beginning because Desai was making adjustments and we were shutting teams down in the second half and we were doing what we had to do. Bend but don't break. All of those terms were being spewed out for the same defense. But as the season goes on, and as teams watch more and more film, you pick up tendencies. I said that earlier in the year. It only matters what's going to happen late in the season because now we are in the push to get to the playoffs. All of this stuff don't matter. How much you hate the Cowboys, the 49ers, none of that stuff matters because once we get to the playoff, everybody's on an even field. And guess what? If you watch that game in Buffalo today, that was an expensive loss for the Cowboys. And I'm not talking about losing ground in the division. I'm talking about they had some key players hurt. That is expensive. We paid our price earlier in the season. We still trying to recover from all them injuries we had. We trying to get our defense on the same on the same page, trying to get them in sync. Our tackling is god awful. To me, that goes back to what you're doing in camp. But what else are you going to do? You know what I mean? So we've got 4 weeks to figure out what the hell we're going to do in the playoffs. Because let's be real with it. The way our defense looks right now, unless they just show me something tomorrow and Mac Patricia just blows us out of the water. And then everybody's like, oh, that's what we should have been doing. Phil Powerman, yeah, absolutely. Nick should be on the hot seat. Absolutely. Yes. The answer to the question is yes. He should be on the hot seat. Because I would have went with the Denard Wilson. I would have kept the guy in-house for the simple fact that when you go on a run like that, like we did last year, and the defense was doing, and think about it, we said the same thing last year, only about the defense. The gripes that we had about our is specific things that we gripe about the offense. But the offense is putting up points, and the offense was doing what it was supposed to do, right? Last year, the defense, we wanted to blitz more, and it just wasn't, we had the stellar record, and we wanted one of the top defenses in the league, but we still wanted more. We wanted more sacks, and we did, it was always something to gripe about. And it's like, yo, we hit the Super Bowl. How you going to gripe? How you going to gripe? So we were in the same boat, just kind of on the other side of the shoe. But having said all of that, my only point to this live stream right now is, after watching the Buffalo Bills dismantle Dallas, why is it that complicated for us? I hate seeing Denver. I hate seeing the Cleveland Browns today, the 49ers, the Buccaneers, Miami. I hate seeing all of these teams figure out what the defense is doing and make common sense adjustments to what they see. And it seems like, for whatever reason, we don't do that. The NFL is a copycat league, and we are the only team that's not copying. And it seems asinine to me. We don't have to do everything that everybody else does, but damn it, we gotta. How long have we been saying that we gotta change some things up? We gotta get a little bit more creative with our offensive play calling. And what do you see? Again, it's a copycat league. So you see all of these teams, you watching the games, everybody doing 6 and 7 different types of motion. Shift, motion, shift, back, arc motion. They motioning behind the quarterback, behind the running back, all of that kind of stuff. You got 8 different ways to run a motion. And you ain't got to go to the nth degree, but damn it, you got to do something, man. Green Hat says, I'm happy that they are not just sitting on their hands and making a move on defense to see if we can make an adjustment. Hey, I'm with you, man. I agree with you, Green Hat. I posted on Twitter earlier today during the Buffalo game, and I said, I don't know what's worse. The fact that we got to make a change like this late in the season, or the fact that the change that was made can legitimately be argued that it was a good idea. I don't know what's worse. We got to get a new coordinator, or the fact that we got to get a new coordinator, and somebody can say, you know what, that might be the best thing for us right now. That's a legitimate argument, and it might prove to be true. That's the scary thing. As good as our defense was last year, so I'm in agreement that it may have been the right thing to do. And again, this is a copycat league, and this is what, the 4th coordinator that's been changed mid-season. You had Buffalo, you had Pittsburgh, us, and it was somebody else. So there's another team that I'm slipping on right now. That's the way things going. And you saw what just happened in San Diego. They got rid of the head coach and the GM. They wasn't playing. I will say this, though. When I watched that San Diego game, that's the first time I can... Maybe there's been a time before, I can't remember. But that's the first time I've seen on national television where a team, you could actually tell that the team had quit. Like, When San Diego was coming up making tackles, they was making business decisions. They wasn't trying to get hurt. It looked bad, and it was very, very obvious that coach had lost the team. That's what a lost team looks like. I've been a part of that before. I've been a part of a situation where the coach was doing some underhand backdoor stuff, and it got out, and we wasn't really crazy about him anyways, and it was a bad situation that was getting worse. And when he got let go, when he got fired, everybody was happy. So I've been through that situation before. That is not a good place to be. If Dennis goes down to Dallas, thank God decides the most. Yeah. Yeah, man. We'll see what's going to happen. And guess what? All of them Cowboys that was ragging on us. And if y'all don't remember anything from me, remember this. And this is the one thing you learn when you play in a league. Because regardless of what the media says and everybody's power rankings and all of that kind of crap, everybody is good in the NFL. And everybody gets a turn. Everybody gets a turn. So you might be high on the hill one week, and the next week, just like Dallas is talking big smack, MVP candidate, Dak, and all of that kind of stuff. What was Dak's stats today? Dak was 21-34 for 134 yards. His quarterback rating was 57.7. So guess that's out the door. So, oh, Dennis. Okay, I was trying to figure out what you were saying. That's your game stream. Slashing Santa. Okay, I got you, bro. I got you. It makes sense now. But yeah, man. I hate that it seems like it's that complicated for us, and it shouldn't be. Because I was one of the ones that would say our defense could be a lot better if we would just tackle. If we could just tackle. Scheme it is what it is. You either believe in it or not, or you don't. But a lot of our situations is because we don't wrap up. We cannot tackle to save our lives. That's what's got to change. And the only way you can change that is in the preseason when you go through camp and stuff like that. But because nobody hits, that's the thing to me. The teams that figure out how to be physical first are the teams that can go far in the playoffs. And if you watch the Buffalo-Dallas game, clearly Buffalo set the tone. Buffalo had set the tone from day one. That kid came up and hit Dak Prescott early in the third quarter. Dak slid, but he slid kind of late, and the kid popped him. He got the penalty, but he set the tone. And Dallas never matched their tone. So, Dennis, man, I mean, if it's Sidney Brown time, here's the thing with Sidney Brown. Sidney Brown looks to me very similar to Marcus Epps last year. Marcus Epps, physical player, a good young player, could move around, had good speed, and not afraid to come up and pop you. The problem was he, just like Blankenship, just like Sidney Brown, they like to come up and pop you and drop their head. That's why Reed Blankenship almost put himself in concussion protocol. He dropped his head. That's a technique issue. That should not be a problem when you are an NFL player. You should not. That's something that they teach you day one football, Little League. See what you hit. And he drops his head, gets a concussion, he's out. Marcus Epps last year, we played San Francisco. Marcus Epps comes up, pops CMC, drops his head. CMC bounces off and just trots on another 15 yards into the end zone. We got to wrap up like old school, make the hit, wrap your arms around, and drive through the man with the ball. That's how I was taught. So I don't know what the hell Slay was talking about last week. They didn't teach us how to tackle right. Y'all the ones ducking your heads because you don't do it in camp no more. Everybody's trying to protect. You got the halo helmets. You got all of that kind of stuff, man. We ain't had none of that. We banged. And mind you, remember, I'm a free agent. So when I was in camp, the starters wasn't going in team drill against the number one defense. You put the rooks in there, and we were the one taking the punishment. So I got Andre Waters and Wes Hop and Byron Evans and all them dudes cleaning my clock. So yeah, we knew how to tackle back then because we did it every day. These guys, they don't do it every day. They just don't. And you see the results of it now. People think that we do well on defense is because of bad teams. We were getting blasted by bad teams. We had too much talent for this defense to play like shit. I'm not going to argue with you. You're not wrong. But there's a little bit more to that. If you remember in the beginning of the year, what was the gripe? We couldn't do banjo coverage to save our life. Banjo coverage meaning if somebody goes in motion and you're in a zone defense, you don't go all the way over. You shift the coverage over. So you shift over and you move somebody and everybody shifts over. So you get 3 DBs kind of shift over and the man on the other side of the ball takes the motion guy when he gets to his side. That's banjo coverage. You passing off the coverage. And we couldn't do that to save our lives. And everybody knew it. So just like in the Super Bowl last year, when they ran that one play with the motion and they stopped and came back the other way, they caught us right in the middle of passing coverage, and they caught us. And they caught us with that twice. And then they turned around and was doing it again this year. And in the beginning of the year, we could not pass coverage off to save our lives, and we got burnt on it. Luckily, we came out of those games with wins. So it wasn't as bad. So I'm not sure. I think he got ortho, which means they didn't cut anything. When you get orthoscopic, that means they stick the camera in you and they clean out. So I don't know if he had scar tissue, he may have had a minor tear, or he may have had, usually when you get orthoscopic, that means you had something previously that wasn't that bad and you played through it. But when your body heals itself, sometimes you get scar tissue, things like that, and that scar tissue can cause pain and uncomfortableness in other ways. So what you do is you get orthoscopic surgery and you go in and clean it out. Now, the reason why you can come back from orthoscopic surgery so quickly is because, like I just said, they don't cut you. They don't cut tendons, they don't cut muscle, nothing like that. You're just going in with a camera, seeing what you can see, and I believe they got this little thing. It's like the little wire, and at the end of the wire's got like a little 3-prong hook, and they go in and they take out the scar tissue. So your tendons and all that kind of stuff can move the way they're supposed to move. But when you have ortho, you can usually recover from that in like 2-3 weeks. So it's not invasive surgery. They are not cutting on you. So Slay could be in a situation where the pain or whatever was getting so bad, and if you're in the game and you get popped on that knee or popped on that, wherever that location is, knee, elbow, shoulder, whatever, if you get popped in that place and it swells up on you, then you're going to have more scar tissue, and then you got the dead blood around it, and it's a domino effect of stuff. So if you can go in and clean it out, that's what you do. So to me, that makes sense. It's kind of coincidence that he does this right with the whole Matt Patricia thing. I thought that was funny. I think it's only a coincidence because if Slay could play, he would play. But I am happy for him to do this now, so he'll have time to come back and be ready for the playoffs. So whatever issue he is, because you got to remember, and people don't think about this enough, regardless of what you like about Slay or not, Slay is probably one of the fastest guys on our team at 31 years old. Slay is fast. I did not realize how fast Slay was until I saw him run with Tyreek Hill in camp last year. That surprised me. Remember that first play where he got tangled up and he came up limping? He was running stride for stride with Tyreek, and Tyreek was moving. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't realize. I had to go back and look. Slay ran like a 4.35 or something at the combine. Slay is fast. And Slay is 6'1". So you got tall and fast like that, which means you got length, you got the arm, the wingspan, and all that kind of stuff. So Slay is formidable. And for him to be moving this good at 30 plus years old, he doing all right. Bradbury, on the other hand, not so much. Bradbury looks like his hips are stuck in oatmeal. That's what Bradbury looks like. He can still cover and stuff like that, but the blueprint's out on Bradbury. If you can, all you got to do is get to his outside shoulder and stick him with a move. Because for whatever reason, he is not turning his hips like he used to. And when you're a DB, everything revolves around your hips. If you can't open your hips or turn your hips and change direction at a quick pace, you are toast. So it ain't Bradbury. I'm calling him Bradbury Jam because they are toasting him. And he better figure it out. Because if any team that plays us, I am motioning my best receiver to Bradbury. And I am going after him all damn day until he proves he can stop us. That's what I would do. And I'm sure that other teams are probably going to do that too. Ricks or the man that got 2 flags on one are Mr. Keely Ringo. Listen, that was just a bad situation with Keely Ringo. He got his hand caught in the face mask. It is what it is. As a series of unfortunate events. But the same thing, like the same situation with Sidney Brown, right? Just imagine, right? Just imagine if Sidney Brown and Keely Ringo had been getting more snaps from the beginning of the year. Then you wouldn't have so much worry. Because the biggest thing for rookies is they got to get snaps. They got to get snaps. They got to take their lumps, man. It's not instant Pro Bowler. You got to let these young kids get in there, take their lumps. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But the more they keep playing, the more they're going to win. The way you win, and this is big props to Reed Blankenship. When and I've said this before many times. If you guys have been listening to me, you've heard me say this before. Last year, there was no earthly reason Reed Blankenship should have been as good as he was. None. Undrafted free agent, Middle Tennessee. Shout out to the OVC. Nobody gave 2 thoughts about it. Matter of fact, when he got in the game, you didn't know what to expect. You was like, uh-oh, that's who they're going to attack. And you know what? He stood in there. He got the pick on Aaron Rodgers. The kid knew where he was supposed to be. And Reed Blankenship from that time always struck me as a heady, smart player because he wasn't the fastest guy. He wasn't the fastest safety back there, but he was physical and he knew where he was supposed to be. So if you know where you're supposed to be and you're not thinking about it, that can make up for your deficiencies. And Reed Blankenship did just that. There was no reason he should have been that good last year, but he was. And you knew without a shadow of a doubt, Reed Blankenship came into 2023. He's our starter, period. You didn't have that feeling about anybody else. You wasn't sure what you was going to get from Jordan Davis. The only other person you knew about was Cam Jurgens and Reed Blankenship. You didn't know about Sidney Brown. He was a rook. So, and I'm saying that to say, now switch it to, when you're talking about Eli Ricks and Keely Ringo, Ricks looked good in the preseason and in the first couple games, and then people started taking advantage of him. But it's the same thing with Ricks, and like they gotta take their lumps. The problem is now is not the time you want to do that. So I don't know what they're gonna do with Keely Ringo because, I mean, look at who would you say was the best rookie in camp this year? Based on everything that I heard, it was Nolan Smith. Every day you heard something good about Nolan Smith. He was like the captain of the rookies and this, that, and the other. He taking his lumps right now too. Because when you get on the field and it's game speed and you going up against a Pro Bowler and you going up against guys that are just as fast as you, it's a different ball game when they snap that ball. I don't care what you did in camp. It's a different speed when the game starts. And back to my gripe a couple minutes ago, they don't do nothing in camp no more. So it's hard to evaluate what you really have. We got lucky with Jalen Carter. And when I say lucky, I mean from the standpoint of we found a player, we took a chance on the player, and he was as advertised. We got lucky with that. Nakobe Dean came from Georgia. Well, has he been as advertised? Nope. Keely Ringo? Nope. Jordan Davis is starting to come into his own, but it took him a year. So for us to get Jalen Carter and as a rookie, just blow it up. He has been as advertised. And from that standpoint, we got lucky. It didn't take him a year or 2 years to get home. You think about as much as we love around here, as much as we love Brandon Graham. BG is going to be, he is a borderline NFL Hall of Famer. He's definitely an Eagles Hall of Famer. You already know that's written. But how long did it take him to get his feet? And you put Brandon Graham, you look at Hassan Reddick and everything he had to go through. You look at Jason Kelce almost getting cut, and how long it took him to get his footing and become the player he became. Because the truth of the matter is, if they were anywhere else, it probably wouldn't have ended the same. Jason Kelce would not be as good as he is, in my opinion. So, Green Hat, back to your question. Ricks or Keely, I don't know. I don't know how you evaluate that. I would say Ricks because Ricks has got more snaps. And when you look in there, when you look at some of the tape on Keely Ringo, sometimes he looks lost because he's a rookie, and that's gonna happen like that. Conversely, I could bring up some plays and show you Nick Moreau, who looked lost. Always getting beat by a tight end or something like. Sometimes he looks lost and he's a veteran. So it's hard to say. You got to go with the hot hand. Only the coaches know. In a situation like this, when they go through practice or what little they do in practice, basically everything is a walkthrough. It's all about muscle memory and understanding what you're supposed to do, where you're supposed to be, and what you're looking at. When this guy goes in motion, what am I supposed to do? And getting to a point where once you see everything and you start to process and you don't think, that's the key. That's the difference between somebody being ready to play and not. When you get on that field, if you got to think about it, you're already a step behind. Once you see it, you got to know. You just got to know. That's the best way I can explain it. I used to try to tell people what it was like when you get in a zone. When a player gets in the zone. The only thing I can say is from my experience, when I was in college and a few times when I was with the Eagles, when you, as a running back, when you get in the zone and they call your play, the minute, the second, the millisecond that ball hits your hands, you know everything that's going on at the same time. And literally, it is like you are watching things happen in slow motion. And you see everything. That's the best way I can describe it. Somebody else might describe it totally different. But for me, as a running back, when I would get the ball in my hands and I was in the zone, I saw everything. And everybody else was moving in slow motion. And that's what happens when these guys, it doesn't matter what position. When you're on top of it, everything is moving. You recognize stuff when you see it. Defense, whatever the offense is throwing at you, you recognize it. You see it. What's the guy? I think it was from Pittsburgh. They ended up, I think they ended up calling it back. Was it Pittsburgh? The dude jumped a screen route and picked it off and ran it back, and they ended up calling it back. Somebody was offsides or something like that. But you see plays like that, and it's like, yo, that's film study right there. He saw the formation. He saw what the running backs were doing. And in a split second, he recognized what they were trying to do, jumped the route, and should have been a pick six. So that's what happens when you know where you're supposed to be. Right now, Keely Ringo is not there yet. Sidney Brown is not quite there yet. Because Sidney Brown he gets to places just a half second too late. So he's not quite there yet. He's fast enough that he can make up some ground after he reacts. But once he figures out where he's supposed to be and he doesn't have to think about it no more, Sidney Brown's going to be deadly. And he's a physical player, not afraid to pop somebody. He's going to be deadly. I'm hoping Kelee Ringo, with his size and speed, is going to be the same way. But my biggest concern, I'm not even necessarily that worried about our defense. Specifically, I'm worried about who's going to cover DK Metcalf. That's what I want to know. If Slay is not playing, who's covering DK Metcalf? Who can run with him? I don't know. It ain't Bradbury. It ain't Roby. It ain't Byard. Maybe Kelee Ringo. Maybe he's young enough and fast enough. Maybe Sid Brown. But that's a tall task right there. Because now you're talking about somebody that's physically the size of A.J. Brown, but 2 inches taller, faster. Don't get it twisted. DK Metcalf has like Tyreek speed. Not quite as fast, but even to be able to say he's almost as fast as Tyreek Hill. And he's as big as he's bigger than A.J. Brown. That's dangerous. But you can get inside his head. He can be a basket case at times. You can get him frustrated, get him out of his game, all that type of stuff. But still, somebody got to cover him. Somebody got to cover him. So I don't know what they're going to do. Been noticing Jalen Hurts has been struggling on his RPO reads compared to last year. Any reason for the drop off? Because here's the thing with the RPOs. RPOs, the best way to stop an RPO is to hit the quarterback. Period. If he's going to pass it, if he's going to hand it off, regardless, hit the quarterback. Because what that does is that forces him to give the ball away, and you take one aspect of the game away. Because now that we have a franchise quarterback, why are we running so many RPOs? I keep hearing that conversation come back up. The reason why our offense was as good as it was last year was because it was predicated off the RPOs. And while that's true, you got to change up because you don't want to put your quarterback in harm's way like that. And Jalen Hurts had already proved that he can beat you in the air. He proved it this year. So you don't want to do that on top of his knee has been hurt all year. His knee still ain't 100%. So do you want to risk running the RPOs when, number one, he's not running at full speed? He can't make the cuts that he used to make. The law of averages says if you run the RPO, look at the hit he took against Dallas. He slid and everything, took a late hit. They didn't call it. Next thing you know, he got to run to the tent to make sure he don't have a concussion. That's what we can't have. We can't have a situation where it's taken because the ref think he has a concussion. He got to go in the tent. You got to take him out of the game. All of that kind of stuff. We don't even want to be in that situation. So that's why you don't want him running like that. Now, if he scrambles and gets out of a situation, so be it. Those should be his runs. Jalen should have less than 5 called runs per game, in my opinion. Because right now we got the running game where you shouldn't have to need it like that. And because he's not moving, everybody's like, okay, if he does decide to run it, let him go. Because he's not going to burn us like he burned us last year. He might move the chains every now and then and get 4 or 5 yards, but he ain't busting no 20 and 30-yard runs like he did, breaking tackles and cutting on a dime. He ain't doing none of that this year because his knee's not 100%. Teams know that. Teams know that. So when they do that mud rush, when they rush 4 guys and they rush 4 guys, all 4 guys stay in their lanes. They don't try to swim. They don't try to do anything. What they do is they all stay in their lanes. So just imagine you got 4 people 3 to 4 yards apart coming at you straight ahead. The offensive line is blocking. Nobody's twisting. Nobody's doing anything. So now everybody stays in their lane. So where does Jalen have to go with the ball? If he doesn't get rid of the ball, he's got to escape. He can't climb the ladder. He can't climb up in the pocket because everybody's waiting for him. So he has to try to get outside. Now, if he breaks contain and goes outside, then the defensive line can chase. And then your percentage for completion drops because you're trying to throw on the run. That's how we beat Miami. Tua is not good throwing on the run. His completion percentage drops drastically when he had to do that. So it's a game. It's a scheming thing, man. It's a scheming thing. So I don't think we can run. If we run the RPOs like we did last year, number one, I don't think Jalen is as efficient at it because he's not as fast. You go jump on YouTube and you look at last year's highlights for Jalen Hurts, and then you could see how much faster he was last year. And I don't even consider Jalen like a burner quarterback. He doesn't have blazing speed. He doesn't have like Lamar speed. I don't even think he's as fast as Josh Allen in some aspects. But he's fast enough to run away from people, and he's strong enough, and his legs are strong enough where he can make hard cuts and leave some people in the dirt. But he's not doing any of that this year. I would gather to say 50% of his sacks from this year are because he wasn't trying to escape the pocket and just went down. Where last year he was getting up out of there and smacking people, smacking their hands away. And I believe it was, let me see. It was 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe it was either the Washington game or the Rams game this year where he hurt his knee. And he wasn't the same since. Maybe it was the second Washington game after the Jets game. Because remember, he scrambled out and stiff-armed that dude and still threw a strike to Devontae Smith. So he could still move out, and he was strong enough to do what he got to do. But I think it was that second Washington game where he got caught with the knee. So it is what it is. He can't run RPOs like he ran last year. He's not as effective at it. It was the Rams game, so be it. I think it was before the Rams game because I think he said that because the Rams game he took that crazy step. I did a video about that because I slow motion that step. It was LA Rams. Maybe it was Washington because it was the week before. I think it was Washington, the first Washington game. I think so. We can't run the RPOs like we used to. We still can run it, but there's other things we can do, man. We can do regular old play action pass, and that would be just as good as RPO, but we just don't do it. I would love to see us run more with Jalen under center and run traditional handoffs, outside handoffs, pitch, all that kind of stuff to keep the defense honest, but we don't do it. That's part of the frustration. Like when I started off, I'm sick of seeing all these other teams do it and have success with it. I hate when we like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. And then we'll run right up the middle, right off tackle, right off the guard. Let's go outside and race somebody to the corner. Why can't we do that? Every other team can do it. We got two of the biggest receivers that are good at blocking and they're physical, and we just don't do it. That is my biggest criticism with Brian Johnson. The things that we can do to make our situation a little bit easier, it seems like we don't do. Now, I don't know if that's Brian Johnson. I don't know if that's Sirianni. I don't know what that mix is when they put together a game plan. But we make it difficult on ourselves. We make it crazy difficult. When we were beating Dallas at home, and it was like 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4, whatever it is, and we take a deep shot to, I think it was A.J. Brown on the left side of the field, and it's like, why the hell are we doing that? I think it was Devontae Smith. But I was like, why are we doing that? When every time we run that 5-yard slant with A.J. Brown across the middle, they can't stop it. And he gets yak yards. Why didn't we do that just to move the chains? Worst come to worst, maybe he gets 4 yards and we brotherly shove for the first down and we run out the clock. So the game doesn't have to end the way that it did. We made it difficult on ourselves. And then with the penalties and, we gave them, 60 yards and 20 seconds and all of that kind of stuff. We just made it difficult when we could have moved the chains and ran out the clock and it wouldn't have been the issue. That is the stuff I look at. It was like, what are we thinking? Move the chains. Don't go for a deep shot. That didn't make sense to me. And that's not the only time stuff like that happens. 2 bubble screens in a row and all, and it, like, dude, what are you thinking? Like, who's calling that play? Is it Brian Johnson or is it Sirianni? I don't know. I got to say Brian Johnson because he's the one with the headset. I don't see Sirianni calling plays and got the script in front of his mouth and all that kind of stuff. I don't see that. So I got to lay it on Brian Johnson. I could be wrong. And maybe if he leaves, maybe we'll find out. But we got to we got 4 weeks to do better. We got 4 weeks. The San Francisco's going to win the division, in my opinion, right now. That's the way it looks, right? We still got a shot to be number 2. But Dallas lost today, but we still got to handle our business. This is not going to be an easy game in Seattle. It is not going to be an easy game in Arizona. And it is not going to be an easy game, both our games with New York. It's just not. We are not that good of a team. We have the worst defense in the league. You think Kyler Murray ain't licking his chops? You think Geno or Locke is not licking their chops? That's the thing that we got to tighten up. So teams are not exposing us. They are exploiting us. It is no secret that our defense is bad. Everybody and their mama know our defense is bad. So what better way for a backup to get confidence is to be throwing the ball against the worst defense in the league. That's what Locke is going up against or Geno's going up against tomorrow. So Matt Patricia better pull a rabbit out of his behind and figure this thing out. Because we got to make it look like we know what we're doing, or everybody's going to keep doing what they've been doing until we show that we can stop it, until we can figure out a way to get the hell off the field on 3rd downs. They're going to keep killing us. So, and that's where it is. So hopefully, whether we got to limp, crawl, whatever we got to do to get to the playoffs, just as long as we get there, and then once we get to the playoff, everybody starts at even. Doesn't matter if you get the bye week, whatever. Some people don't like the bye week because they don't want to lose momentum, because some people think if you get a week off, you lose your momentum. I don't know. For some teams, that is true. For others, not so much. Some people want the bye week because they want to rest. There's merit in both options. So, like I said, we're going to learn tomorrow. All eyes are going to be on Matt Patricia. What's the over or under on how many times they show the coach's box? Remember when Buffalo fired their offensive coordinator? Then that next game, they had about 5 shots to the coach's box, showing reactions and stuff like that. They're going to do the same thing. They're going to give Sean Desai the Taylor Swift treatment. So, but yeah, man. Just wanted to throw that out there. I just had thoughts because I'm tired of seeing all the other teams do what we should be doing, and it's basic stuff. Use more motion, hit the check down route. Just give our offense some breathing room to operate. That's what we got to do. So we'll see what's gonna happen tomorrow. Appreciate y'all joining me. This was kind of spur of the moment. Most of my live streams are, but I appreciate y'all for joining me. Green Hat, I appreciate you. Dennis, Slashing Santa, I appreciate you, bro. Cody K, as always, you always jump in. I appreciate you. Philly Power Man, I appreciate you. So we're going to do this again one of these days. Well, let me say it like this. Going into the new year, I'm going to put together a schedule of my live streaming, and I'm going to be live streaming on a day at a time, and it's going to be consistent. So I appreciate you guys joining me, and I'm going to get you some of you guys on camera. So we're going to do some different things next year. We're going to make it happen. So appreciate you joining me, and let's go Birds.